Hey people, it's Teal Gamer here, and welcome to a segment that I've designed called One Example of Why the Things on the Internet Are a Total Mess. Now, I've discussed the issue I'm about to discuss in this video multiple times on my channel, but I don't think anybody's actually seen it put into action as it happens. So it just so happens that I had been looking for a video and I came across this. I've been looking for a video on how to make a recipe. So I went ahead and looked at a bunch of things, and I got into reading some of the comments below this one particular video, and people were making comments about the title of the video not being true. And other people are defending it, saying, well, it doesn't matter and anything else, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. However, the only reason I involved myself in that is because I was just answering questions that people were talking about, like, what is this, or what's the big deal people were saying, which I'll show you some of those comments in the link to the video. Now, I will be linking several things. I will be showing a couple things in this video, which I will put the links to all of them in the description below this video. One of the comments that I had posted on there, it appears to have been deleted by the person who owns the channel after I basically explained to him what you're saying is basically irrelevant. Now, to bring you up to speed on what's going on here, is that the base problem with the internet is these fucking idiots that run around totally ignoring what the actual issue is and trashing and piling on so much bullshit that has nothing to do with the actual issue that nobody understands how anything works. And I should say how anything works in accordance to the EULA and the terms of service and things like that, because that's what this is actually about. This isn't about people's opinions or whether or not I can get in trouble or anything else. And this one particular aspect that I'm going to show you on the channel, on this particular person's channel, and go over the policies and things like that, I'm going to bring them up on the screen, is totally ignored by the companies, which is a problem in games in general and places on the internet. This one particular aspect all falls on the developers of games, or the people who run websites, and the people who cannot even enforce their own policies, which actually causes this stuff to be a mess. So I'll be addressing the actual problem, pinpointing the exact time at when this becomes an issue. And then I'll get into a couple other details. So first, I want to explain that I was looking for a recipe on how to make nachos. I'm sorry, homemade tortilla chips from scratch. Now, I'll explain what the actual issue here is with the terms of service, how it violates and things like that, so people can see how this goes together. Now, I want to be clear that whether or not a place actually does something about this being in violation has no relevance to the fact that it is in violation, because a company can do whatever that they want, which is a problem. But what happens here is when you say something is in violation of, a terms of service or something you signed, that becomes a joke on the net, and that is because developers or whoever runs these things do not enforce their own policies, even though they're written right into it, which in turn sends out the message that it's okay to do, and that's why everybody thinks it's a fucking joke. So I'm going to go right into it, and I'm going to show you this actually happening as it's going along. Alright, so let me bring up the first thing here. Alright, so this video was, let me get to it here. I normally don't condone looking at, hold on a second here. I normally don't condone putting up people's videos, like advertising who they are, but in this particular case I have to, because I kind of don't have a choice in order to show you exactly what's going on. Now, I'm not endorsing this person's channel, and I'm not leaving a link on his channel to try to endorse my channel. I just point blank said to this person, if you're going to continue going down this route of ignoring what the actual issue is after it's been explained to you, then I'm just going to make a video, put it on my channel, and leave the link to it. Now, this isn't to attack him. This is just point blank to show you how ridiculous and stupid people become on the internet, and how bad companies are when it comes to this stuff, which allows these people to get away with this crap, which in turn causes a mess on the internet. So let me start by explaining. YouTube has a policy about false or misleading titles. So the question comes down to, how do you determine what is a misleading title? Now, there is definitions of words. That's not in debate here. But what happens here is when you're advertising something, if the way you have something worded people have a different idea than what the actual definition of the word is by having a different understanding of the word. Then you have actually deceived the people into thinking something, using a word how they're thinking it differently than the definition is. So I'll give you an example because that was kind of confusing. This particular case, homemade tortilla chips. Now, the definition of homemade, this is the actual definition of homemade. It's made in your home. So whether or not you build everything from start to finish from scratch isn't the actual definition. However, this is where things get complicated and tricky, because if you ask the good portion of people, if you take a poll and ask people, 100 people, just 100 people, and you continue asking 100 people over, different segments of 100 people. So if you take a total of 300 people and ask 100 people 3 different times at 3 different points what the definition of homemade is, more than half of them are going to tell you it means from scratch. Regardless of whether homemade means made at home, has nothing to do with the fact on how people interpret the word. So the poll is taken to show that the average person who reads that word is thinking it means from scratch. That's the issue. It's not about whether or not what somebody puts in their title. And it matters how people are perceiving the word. Now, it's one thing to take a poll, but it's a completely different story when you have pretty much a good portion of the comments on your channel telling you in the comment section, this is not homemade. That alone proves that the people that you're trying to show this video to are perceiving your video to be making these things from scratch. Now, whether or not homemade means made at home, the fact that you know for a fact is this person's responded to these comments so that he's fully aware of how people are interpreting this. Plus, I have actually left the definition. I've left a message for him, pulling up YouTube's policies and explaining that it's a deceptive practice. It's a video with a misleading title, specifically designed to generate you views, which is against YouTube's policy. What he then proceeded to do was argue with me, and like I said, even though he deleted it, I have a screenshot of the actual reply he left. Because this doesn't matter. I don't give a shit how you fucking title your video. That's not my concern. All I did was I was answering people about, they were saying, oh, what's the big deal or anything else. And I'll show you this stuff. But like I said, I want to explain first that this person clearly doesn't give a shit. He's in violation, and he basically told me I was wrong, which is why I originally pulled up the YouTube policies, and I explained to him misleading is, like when you have a video title that's misleading, how you prove that is how people interpret the definitions of what you're putting in your video title. Whether or not the definition of the word actually exists, it has a definition, has nothing to do with how people interpret it. How people interpret it is the issue here. And so what's going on is everyone's like, well, it's a big deal. This is a good recipe. And he's like, I'm telling me I'm wrong or whatever. And the issue's getting bypassed. So here's the deal. Let me explain. Let me show you. I'll show you the comments that he said to me by bringing this up. So let me close this out first and bring up the actual reply. All right. This is the reply I had left. Okay. It's kind of hard to read here, but I was telling him, I literally said, this is not homemade. What happens here is you are deceiving people into clicking on this video because they're taking the word homemade and applying it to scratch, and everybody's telling you this is not from scratch, and you're saying, oh, you're wrong, it's homemade, and you're totally ignoring the actual issue that people are clicking on the damn video due to that one word, because you have a word in there, people are having a different impression of what the word actually means. So what I wound up doing was I just simply explained to this tool that you can tell me I'm wrong all you want, but you can't use your opinion to override or circumvent the fact that you clicked I agree not to do deceptive false titles when you made your YouTube account. So what you tell me about, well, I'm wrong or this and that, and you can have a totally logical opinion. None of that shit's relevant because YouTube says you're not supposed to be doing it, and you agreed to not do it. For you to sit there and argue with me doesn't make a difference to me. You're just being stupid. So telling me I'm not dumb, telling me I'm dumb when you're the one avoiding the issue doesn't change anything. You're still in violation of YouTube's policies. Now, that has nothing to do with whether YouTube does anything to you or not. They, as far as I can give a shit, they can take the video down. I'm just explaining to this tool that you are arguing invalid points because the terms of service point blank say you are in violation, period. So this is the shit that I talk about, and this is like I said, this is going on currently right now. So for the people who always question me or whatever it is, or don't understand exactly what I talk about, here it is in action. So I will read exactly what he said, because he told me I am wrong. Starts using an opinion. I says, dude, your video is clickbait. This is the definition of it, and here it is. So I pulled up YouTube's policies and I linked them to him. So let me see if I can read this here. I says, your opinion. Hold on, let me see if I can actually pull up the what do you call it, the actual picture here, and then I can just read it that way. Okay, so what I basically said to him was, your opinion. I told him, I says, if you didn't make these tortillas from scratch, they're not homemade, because that's not that's not what people are saying. They're not interpreting what you're putting as homemade as homemade. And he's like, I wound up telling him, he's like, I love how people can get all bent over food recipes and whatever, because these people are defending him, and because they don't understand what the hell's going on here. This isn't a big deal, but if you're going to ask questions about what's causing this, don't be a douchebag and fucking ignore it, and then start coming up with illogical stuff just because you think it is, to bypass what the fuck you're doing. So here we go. I told him, your opinion, question, because he asked me a question. He goes, well, if I did this and this, I'm like, I didn't even bother reading it, because what I explained to him is, your opinion, question, and example have no relation to and or trumps the EULA you clicked I agree when creating your YouTube account. The EULA says you are not allowed to do what you're doing, and that's all that matters. Here is the section of the YouTube TOS that explains in detail about why a misleading title violates YouTube's EULA and TOS. It's listed under misleading metadata, and I'll pull that picture up right now. So give me a second to pull that up. Okay. So let's see here. That and this. Okay, so this is I'm gonna break this down. This is YouTube's policy here. I had to take a screenshot of it because it wouldn't let me link the actual browser in this for some reason. I don't know what algorithm YouTube has on here or whatever, but let me look at this here. All right, so under the misleading metadata, it explicitly states these are YouTube's policies now. This is something you agreed to do. Metadata refers to any and all additional information provided on a video. This includes the title, description, tags, annotation, and thumbnail. The reason we have metadata is so that you can add additional contextual information to your videos. Please do not use these features to game or trick out search algorithms. All metadata should be representative of the content contained in your video. Among all other things, metadata added in an attempt to game search algorithms will lead to a removal of your video and a strike against your account. Please select a reasonable number of tags that most closely reflect your video content. Please also only add tags to the tag section of your metadata. Adding additional tags to your description of your video may constitute spam and can result in the removal of your video. Now, misleading metadata literally states you are not allowed to purposely put stuff in the title of your video to mislead people into believing your video is something that it's not. That is a YouTube policy. I literally just read to you from YouTube's policy. Now, I'm going to go down into the comment section of what this video does, and I'm going to start showing you. If you take a poll on what these people are doing, and what these people believe homemade means, you have lied to them to get them to click on your video, which is a misleading title, because it doesn't matter what the actual definition of homemade means. This particular case refers to how people are interpreting the word homemade in the title of your video. You are fully aware that people are clicking on it thinking it means from scratch. Therefore, you are aware of what the title of your video is doing, because I have also told you this. Now, it's one thing when other people tell you this, but the difference when I tell you something is I won't just say it. I will link you every single thing that points out why it's in violation. I'll show you how it's in violation. I'll show you where, and I will explain to you how the violation is in effect by telling you this is the way it works. Now, you can ignore that and do whatever you want. It's not going to change anything, because the point here is until you change your video, you are fully aware that you are tricking people into clicking your video because it has the word homemade in it, and you're holding on to a definition that has no relevance to this because you know how people are looking at it, which means you are fully and purposely knowing anybody looking for from scratch is going to come across that and possibly click on your video if they find it. You are fully aware that that is a deceptive word because how people are reading it. And how people are reading it are posted in your comment section. It's unavoidable. And so I'm going to bring that up now, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to start showing people where these comments are. Let me block this out, put this back up. Okay, so I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to scroll all the way down, and I'm going to start showing you. I'm just going to count off these videos. Now, I had also made another comment to a couple of the YouTube users who asked, like, what's the problem? And I basically, again, if you're asking me what the problem is, I'm going to explain it. Don't sit there and try to freaking argue with me with some stupid logic to try to circumvent or bypass or trump the EULA you signed. It's not going to change anything. I had to explain to Caitlin T. So basically, Caitlin T says, FYI, just as you have your opinion, so do we. It ain't homemade, you know. Kathleen T basically was trying to defend this person. So, Kathleen T, everyone's saying this isn't homemade. It clearly is. Just because he bought the tortillas doesn't matter. Actually, it does. You're right. None of that shit matters. What you're failing to understand is that people are clicking on the damn video because it says homemade, and he is fully aware that people are interpreting homemade as from scratch. Period. That's the issue. So what I explained to Kathleen T, I said, the video title is in violation of YouTube's TOS. It's called clickbait, and I've reported it, which I did. Now, whether or not anything happens, that's another issue that I'm going to go over. But I'm just explaining why his video is in terms of service violation. So, I said YouTube's TOS explicitly states that clickbait videos are a violation. Period. You can argue that all you want, but they're a violation. Clickbait is defined as misleading titles to get people to click on your videos. That's what the definition of clickbait is. If you have people clicking on your video because you have a misleading word, which you clearly know is misleading, then you have a clickbait video. It's like when somebody doesn't update their video about tips and tricks in a game that are outdated. They know it's outdated, that the video title, the video needs to come down, or you need to retitle it saying this no longer works, because you're using that to generate views because you know people are going to search for cheats in games. And if you know information is outdated, it is your responsibility as a YouTube user to put in there so viewers are fully aware that that information in that video no longer works, because you're afraid that they won't click on it. So you, instead of updating it, you leave a violation up. Okay, so again, I want to be clear that it doesn't matter whether YouTube does anything about this or not. The fact that this is in violation is the issue. So we're going to keep going here. So I says, clickbait is defined as a falsely titled video, or as falsely titled a video and or video title deliberately leads the viewer to click on a video via a title into believing something that the video insinuates that is untrue. The term homemade in this is exactly the same context as if he titled the video from scratch. If he didn't actually make the tortillas out of the dough, he made them the dough he made. In other words, if he didn't actually make the tortillas out of the dough he made, then automatically it negates being homemade under that context. This is a clickbait video because using a phrase like that is deceiving viewers looking for making homemade tortillas from scratch. And I basically rancidly told the kid, I'm like, it's bad enough YouTube has a bunch of clickbait videos. We don't need people such as yourself defending this crap. Because it's true. She's defending it, totally ignoring the issue. Now, after I had posted my reply here, he says, sorry, TL Gamer, you are so wrong in many ways. Let me ask you this. If you make a video called, let me expand this here. If you make a video called homemade potato chips, and I thinly slice a potato and deep fry it, are you going to complain that I did not harvest the fruit? See, that's a fucking retarded argument. He's trying to split hairs here because that's not what this means. If you are cutting a potato from scratch, you are literally cutting the potato, you are making them homemade. That is the same context you're talking about here. But you're misleading people into believing you're cutting the potato as making the tortillas. So don't even go into this. This is the stupidity level of shit that goes on in the internet. Like, this is a retarded comment, bottom line. I am not calling this video homemade tortilla chips made from Mesa. That doesn't matter. You can make fucking homemade tortilla chips from fucking cornmeal or flour or some other random thing. White cornmeal. I can name 19 things. You know, corn flour. And so if you're going to, like I said, I mean, you can sit here and split hairs with this, but it doesn't change the fact that what you have in your video, you fully well are aware people are clicking on it because they are thinking it means from scratch. So it doesn't, you can spin this any way you want. None of that shit matters. It's not even a valid counter-argument. So anyway, normally I delete idiot comments from people like you, but I thought I'd let yours stay up so smart people have a laugh. But that's why you deleted my entire video that brought up the terms of service. I also left a link to this clown saying you also should read the post put up by the YouTube community manager, because I left a link for that too. That's also in the video. That's also in the description below this video as well. He conveniently deletes that one, but he doesn't delete this one. So this is, again, a biased thing. Not that that's a big deal. I mean, you can't control that. But the fact of the matter is, I saved it and posted it, and if you go there, I don't think you can find it now. It's gone. And what I posted in that link literally has, as I showed, the picture. It shows the terms of service guidelines that you clicked on. It clearly YouTube clearly outlines your video title is bottom line. It's fucking deceptive, period. So he's like, the video is titled Homemade Tortilla Chips, which are made at home. Go figure, bright one. Again, that's not a valid counter argument because the word homemade you have in here is deceiving people because they're thinking it's from scratch. There are tons of comments in your video that are proof that people are clicking on it because they're all telling you this is not homemade, which means they're taking it as you're saying this is from scratch. Doesn't fucking matter whether you made it in your home. You didn't make it from scratch, and that's the context people are thinking your word is in. So, okay, so here's another one. Why is everyone so sensitive about homemade? Okay. Again, that's an ignorant person who doesn't understand what the actual issue is. They're jumping on a bandwagon rather than if you go and pick this apart like I did. I just fully explain why your video title is misleading and false and violates terms of service. So whatever you say to me doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't trump that YouTube itself, the terms of service and policies, tell you your video is misleading because of what is actually going on. Okay, so I wrote, this is what's known as clickbait video. So I basically explained it again. And let's see here. So what happens is there are plenty of videos showing how to make tortillas on YouTube. Make tortillas, make them from scratch. Like I said, this is another generic thing. See, because this is key factor wording here. Because he says there's plenty of videos showing how to make tortillas. So this person is generically putting make into a generic category despite it having actual definitions to what make actually means. And because you have make from scratch, but then you just have make, which is what's going on in this video. And then you have people, unless you define it, people are going to take it in a generic way. Alright, so okay, so here's another one. Okay, everyone is giving him grief because these are not homemade tortillas. That's true. He should have said home fried or fried to serve or something like that. But the store-bought tortilla, here's the but. Okay, this is where this shit should have ended. the rest of this comment here on down has no relevance to the fact that this guy even said it's not, these are not homemade. In other words, he's even thinking that the word homemade means scratch, even though it doesn't. He's saying this is not homemade because these are not homemade tortillas. That's true. No, it's not true, but the context that he's taking it in is making it in that fashion. So again, this is not homemade. Bro, put a damn shirt on, blah, blah, blah. Right. Read the caption. Homemade tortillas. Not homemade corn tortillas or tortilla chips like Ted said. Put a damn shirt on. Okay, so somebody's like, maybe you understand what you read. This has nothing to do with, again, this just has nothing to do with what people read. This has to do with, are you aware that your video title is deceptive and people are clicking on it because you know people are taking homemade out of context and they're thinking it's something it's not, and they're clicking on your video to watch it. You do know that because there are people telling you this. Yeah, so he's like, homemade chips. But that's, people are splitting hairs here because, again, this has nothing to do with the way people are interpreting this. I'm just showing you all the comments that people are trying to flip the definition around instead of actually reading what people are saying. That's not homemade, you just fried it. See? He even saying this isn't homemade. Even, it's like fucked up. Nothing homemade about these. Okay, so let's view the replies. Nothing else you can call them since they did not make themselves. Of course, you could make up your own name, but that would confuse people. This is already confusing people. I agree. He used store-bought tortillas. So what? Okay, I just, again, this is the last comment I'm going to make about it because I can go on with this. But, yeah, the issue isn't that he used homemade tortillas. There isn't an issue with that. Fucking use anything you want. The issue isn't what he used. The issue is how he titled this video, knowing it's misleading people. Okay, so that being said, I can harp on this forever, but I'm going to basically close this video with this comment, basically. What's going on here is, like many things on the internet, YouTube has a policy that says that is against the rules. Period. Point blank, I read it. This shit about YouTube deeming what is or isn't against policy, bullshit. That is where all of the responsibility falls onto the owner of a site or the runner or the developer of a game for not enforcing their own terms of service by bending it however the fuck they want, instead of saying, if I took all of the information that I just put in here and I presented it to YouTube, whoever does this, that video is automatically supposed to get removed. Because not only did I provide evidence it's clickbait, but I showed how it's clickbait and what it's doing. I literally showed that video is in violation. Now, can you pick apart anything and do that? Yes. But I didn't pick that apart. I simply showed what people are doing, how people are thinking. I brought up the violation, the policies. I showed how the violation was connected to the policy, and I showed how it was being violated. That's not something I just looked at. That's not something I picked at and found. That's just what's going on. So the fact is, this is why online is a fucking mess, because you have assholes like this that post this shit, deceive people, then actually argue about it with stupid, irrelevant opinions that have nothing to do with it. You have people that don't understand how this shit works, totally ignoring everything, jumping on the bandwagon for everything else. Then you have the damn fucking game developers who don't remove people from the game for being abusive, despite it says, oh, you know, there's no abuse. You can show there's abuse, and the game developers, well, we didn't deem that was abuse. And it's just bullshit. So the issue here on why, like I said, why the internet and why things on the internet are usually a mess is because the game developers are not held accountable, the owners of sites are not held accountable, and people like this on YouTube are totally ridiculous with what they say because they don't get the concept that they agreed not to do something, and everything's a big fucking joke. So this leads me to say all the time, if if the policy is not going to be followed, then the policy doesn't exist. It doesn't matter what is written in the guidelines. And it's like I said with the whole forum issue that I went about, you know, people are bitching about neck-throwing threads. But yet the administrator leaves the topic open for you to post in. And then when you do, somebody bitches you posted in it and brings up the guidelines saying you're not supposed to be posting in it. That's the shit that goes on. The bottom line comes down to, if you don't want people locking your topic, you don't want people posting in your topics, lock it or remove it from view so that can't happen. Don't bitch about it when it happens. If you have a policy that says don't put clickbait videos up, if somebody reports it as a clickbait video, fuck the person who posted it. You're in violation. Present the information, and then the fucking owner of the site is supposed to remove it as per the fucking terms of service. If somebody in a game is harassing you, you pull up the federal laws and the state, and you know, you pull up the federal laws, you show how the federal laws state this is not supposed to be going on, and the game developer is supposed to remove the person from the game, because the game developer, an owner of a site, and YouTube cannot determine how or what is harassment, or how or what is clickbait, or how or whatever is running, because that's already been defined. And this is a problem. Nobody is there to hold these fuckers accountable to actually enforce their own policies. And everyone's like, well, you know, and this just sends the message off. So you got tools like this that are basically saying I'm wrong, totally ignoring the fact that I have already proven it's not. So the issue with this is that, hey, I'm just getting ready to end this video, but I will be streaming a game soon. The issue here is that I was, as a quick recap, since this is going to be going up, I'll just quickly explain what was going on here. There's a person who basically has this video here, and to me, it doesn't really, I don't really give a shit what somebody titles their videos on. I don't care. You can post whatever the hell you want. But the only reason I got in the middle of that is because I started reading the comments and people were asking, why is this such a big deal? And nobody understood what the fuck was going on. So I basically laid it out and says, look, your video's in violation. This is what people think your video is. This is called clickbait, and it's against YouTube's terms of service policies. When you created your YouTube account, you agreed not to do it. So this guy's fucking arguing with me, telling me I'm wrong and using his opinion. I says, I don't give a fuck what your opinion is. That has no relevance to the fact that YouTube said don't do it. You agreed not to do it. You are fully aware that this video is misleading, because you know people are clicking on it for the purposes of not understanding how you use the word homemade. Because the point here is that there's a definition of a word, but when people are misinterpreting the definition of that word and then clicking on your video under the context they think it is, then that's a violation of YouTube's terms of service, because it becomes a clickbait video. Now, this person is fully aware that people are clicking on his video, knowing that they think this word homemade means from scratch. So when people are looking for tortilla recipes, they're looking to actually make the dough. This clown knows this, and he basically said, I don't know what I'm fucking talking about, after I had posted the policies. I even posted something from the YouTube community manager, and I pulled up how it was in violation, and he basically it's funny how he left up one of my other comments but conveniently removed the ones that had the information in it that showed how he's in violation. I not only brought up the policies and read it, but I showed it. I showed how the policies were in relation to what was going on, because the people in the people in the comments section are all telling him this, so he's fully aware of this. So there's no way he can say, "Oh shit, I didn't know." So therefore, his video title is in violation of YouTube's policy. Now that is one thing. If YouTube doesn't remove it, then they're at fault for not following their own policies, which allows clowns like this to do what they're doing and argue, because they think there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. And regardless of whether they think that, doesn't change the fact that if you show it in the policy and then you connect everything to that policy to show how the policy is being violated, and then the site owner doesn't actually follow through with the policy and kicking a consequence to this person, then the site is fucked. Because that is why there are so many problems. Nobody is holding these assholes accountable, because like I said, if I piled all this information together and then sent it to YouTube, that video is supposed to get removed as per the violation under the terms of service. Since it's not, it won't be removed because YouTube's fucked up after Google got a hold of it. So they just have all of these fucking policies written down that mean shit. Now, because they can do whatever the fuck that they want. So that means, I've always told people, there is no such thing as a terms of service on a website, because the company can just ignore it. So until something is in place that, stops these assholes from doing that, then they got fucking problems. That's why that's why most things on the internet are a mess. It's because it stems to the game developers in games, people like Google and YouTube, for not enforcing their own policies. And then it spreads the message to tools like this who think, who don't understand how the system itself works. And even after you point it out to them, they're just too dense to get it just because they like to fucking argue. The bottom line here is this guy needs to change the title of his video, and as long as he doesn't, it's in violation of YouTube's policy. So all I did was I explained to him how it's in violation. Telling me I'm wrong doesn't fucking mean anything. You're not telling me I'm wrong. You're just basically ignoring YouTube's policies. I mean, so is YouTube, for that matter. Yeah, so there's, like I said, there's a lot of shit that goes on that shouldn't be going on. And like I said, if you watch, I don't ever tell anybody. The only time I tell somebody to watch a video is because it contains information that they're asking about, or there are very few videos I'll tell people to watch just because I want opinions on what they thought of it, that's all. But the thing here is that I have my game guide video, and basically I had said something that pertains to the comment that you just said there. Alright. In my game guide video, at the very end of it, I think it's like a minute, 2 minutes left, whatever, I had said a brief message about what my channel is about, because the reason I posted the game guide video is because if you look at my channel, it's all me bitching about game developer problems. So what happens here is people ignore the issue, and instead of focusing on the fact that the game developer needs to fix their games, they instead look at, how do you have this many problems with all these games if you have these guides? Which has nothing to do with what my channel's about. So my channel is about pointing out where the flaws are, and they need to be fucking fixed. Whether or not, you can't take that and change it into, oh, you have a problem, you should have no problems, you know this, and you can just look it up. That has nothing to do with my videos. Nothing to do with my channel. So one of the examples I use a lot is that I could take a video of a car, and I could show the car as a flat tire, and that's it. There's nothing to debate. It's just, hey, great, cool, look at this car, it's got a flat tire. If I left comments open under that video, people would be posting shit like, you're poor because you can't afford tires. My autistic nephew knows how to change a tire. Get a job. Get out of your parents' basement. You need to shave. How do you breathe in the morning? Well, waffles don't have instructions on the box. Do you know how to shampoo? What? And that's all because I showed a car with a flat tire. And even though there was no discussion about that, it's not like I asked, hey, how do you change the tire on this? Or what do you guys think I should do with this car? There's no discussion. But what happens is people are like, oh, we offered you help, but you don't want to take it. What? It's just dumb. This is the freaking stupidity level of people on the internet. That's why my video about how did gamers become this dumb, gamers are just idiots in general, because if you listen to some of the shit I talk about, yeah, people get all aggravated with it, but I don't give a fuck. If people weren't stupid, I would have nothing to talk about. Because like I said, most of my videos, I don't allow comments under my videos because the video isn't there to debate. It's not there to ask you if your opinion. It's not there. I'm not asking for help. I'm simply pointing out that this screen has no instructions. So if this screen has no instructions, don't fucking argue with me that it is just because you understand it. Great. You looked at the screen and messed around with your mouse, but yet the game never told you to move your mouse around on the screen. And things like that. So people are saying, well, I moved my mouse around the screen. Yeah, good for you. What the fuck? You can't use that as a counter argument to say, well, you didn't figure it out. the game didn't tell you to move your mouse, so therefore if you're in a tutorial, you don't move your mouse. And that's the same thing that you're talking about, because what happens here is nobody, it's like, that's just me pointing out developer flaws. But when you have shit like this going on, you know, people bitch that the problem is out of control on the internet. YouTube does this, YouTube. If you watch people that have been invited to go to YouTube panels, they never actually, if I was invited to a YouTube panel, this is what I would have done. I literally would have stood up in the fucking meeting. I couldn't stand. So I'm like, I really wish to God I was invited to some of these fucking places. I really was. Because I would tell everybody in the room to shut the fuck up, because here's the issue. One of the panel discussions that I had seen was there was a YouTuber that said, yeah, I got invited to go to the YouTube question and answer panel, and you know, YouTube has a problem and everything else. And they briefly touched up on the content ID claim issue that's going on in YouTube. Google has a fucked up algorithm, and that thing needs to be fucking removed, because they were lying their ass off in the entire video. And that's the shit that needs to end, because the government's not, if you go to the fucking district attorney's office and say YouTube's fucking her and everything, they're just going to look at who owns it and just ignore it. It doesn't matter how much proof you did. So until somebody steps in and forces, you know, Google or whoever owns, you know, whatever site or game developers or anything else to actually enforce their terms, or somebody needs to say, no, you are going to get rid of that person. This isn't an opinion of yours, or you can't dictate that's not harassment, because the government, federal government rules state it is. Now, keeping in mind, I want to clarify that I'm talking about within the United States border. You can't apply our laws outside this country to any place else, because that doesn't, what may be illegal here may be totally legal there. So when I speak, I'm speaking from inside the United States only. And a lot of these companies, Bethesda, ZeniMax Online, they're all U.S. based. Blizzard, U.S. based. So they are all subjected to United States federal government mandated laws on how businesses are supposed to run. Now, being subjected to it is one thing. It doesn't matter whether something is illegal. It only matters if you actually go ahead and do something about it. That's the difference. So companies do shit illegally all the time. So the problem that you're having here is that I'd like to see the big tech monopolies busted up. You're right, because monopolies are illegal in the United States. So how the fuck are companies getting away with this? Why doesn't the district attorney go after this? Who do you go to make the district attorney do their fucking job? Who do you go to make the Better Business Bureau basically strong-arm the fucking district attorney into pressing charges against these people? Valve is a company that monopolizes the entire video game market. They need to fucking be abolished, period, because they're too abusive with their policies. They're too abusive with their power. They're too abusive with too much shit, and they get away with entirely way too much stuff because there's nobody governing them. So most of this shit is basically, it's almost like half of these people that run companies are in bed with game developers and gaming companies that get away with this shit because they're not governed. It's not what they're doing isn't illegal. It's what they're not governed, so there's no enforcement of it. That's all. And so when you're dealing with this shit, it's annoying because people are getting away with entirely way too much. Take League of Legends, for example. That game should be fucking have been shut down a long time ago. So first of all, you have the Russians. Let's take a League of, like I said, let's take a League of Legends, for example. It's one thing to lose to somebody, but when you have assholes that pigpile on a winning team just for winning, and then cause so much of a problem that Valve actually, whoever runs that, rolls over for them and just bans the winning team just because this other team bitched, that's a problem. Those people need to be removed from the industry until they can learn how to fucking behave. When you have, you know, shit like that goes on YouTube here, like what I've discussed in here, the issue isn't, there isn't a big deal to me about how something's titled, but if you ask me a question like this guy did, or somebody did, or I'm going to point something out, I'm going to correct you, because I'm an asshole, that's what I do. If you don't like me, shut me the fuck off, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I've made a lot of videos that just piss people off, but you know what? I'm not going to be strong-armed into having to roll over. Now, is there an acceptance level? Yes. Am I tolerant and am I an asshole? Yes, we all are. but you literally enforce how you think onto me, and if I don't follow that, it's not okay, but you can do it to me, and it's different when you do it, is a problem. I just have a fucking problem with manipulation in general. So this is why I tell people, you know, it's like, if you, this is why I get barred from all fucking Elder Scrolls Online games. I've been barred from all Elder Scrolls Online, ZeniMax Online games ever. Like, I cannot play any ZeniMax Online media games at all, which means I won't even be able to play Fallout 76. The reason behind that is because I took them to court, and the basic issue here is that they violated their own terms of service. I called them on it. They started trying to dictate how the law works, and I says, you're not a fucking lawyer. Stop dictating this to me. And then what wound up happening was we mediated it. But the reason that they banned me wasn't because I'm an annoyance. The reason that they banned me is because I actually put my foot down, and they realized I actually don't have an issue standing up to you. I don't give a fuck who you are. I will take you to court if you are violating that, because you're not going to enforce your rules onto me that you don't have to follow, and then literally dictate to me over the phone that I have to tolerate being talked to like that. And then when I say, if I'm talking to you like that, I'm going to talk back to people like that. And they're like, no, you're not. I says, you're not going to fucking tell me I have to roll over and take being fucking harassed while you allow it to go on when you're in violation of your own terms of service. I said, fuck that. That's not going to happen. So what happens here is, it's not that they ban me because I'm an annoyance. They ban me because I have a valid point, and they know I'm not going to tolerate any shit. So they don't want the fucking hassle of somebody who's actually gonna push back. Because I even said to them when we were in court, I was like, look, you're gonna find stuff to pick out. I'm gonna find stuff. We're gonna go back and forth. I says, in the state I live in, because I have a disability, I got into an accident in 2005 with my boss's truck, so I literally can't work. I have legally been deemed I can't work. And so what wound up happening was I told them, I understand how to file paperwork, and it doesn't cost me a cent to file paperwork. So this is the other thing. Court systems, like filing paperwork and shit like that, have an issue, have cost money. And plus, people don't know how to, I don't want to say people don't know how to do it, but this is why people hire lawyers. Me, I know how to look shit up, and I told them, I says, listen, I'm going to go back and forth with this. You're going to find something, I'm going to go find. I says, I can drag this out just as long as you can. It won't cost me a fucking cent to file anything. And I says, I know how to file stuff, and I know how to continue this, and I says, I can drag this out just as long as you can. But that's me. Not everybody can do that. In fact, I think I'm in the minority on that, like a real minority. So I also explain that this isn't something I just rolled over and did. I did tons of research because I understand how to look the stuff up. I know what to look up. I know where. I have to find out what's connected to what. I have to find other cases. This is why people pay lawyers, because there's all this information you have to know about. And so you have to know how to look for it. You have to know, like, what law books are in effect. Like, what law books do you use for the updates on, things like that. So, you know, it's an uphill battle. And even still, that might not even, you know, because this also depends on whoever puts up a better argument is going to win the case. That's just basically how it is. Whoever puts up a more convincing argument is that's how court cases are won. It's who brings it up. So that's about the extent of it on that. So if you have any questions or whatever it is, or want to shoot the shit with it, just let me know. I'll fucking do whatever. Because I'm gonna, like I said, once this video is uploaded, I'm gonna link this video to that guy's channel. I told him it's fucking retarded, dude. So I'm one of these channels, you either like me or you don't. And here's the thing, I'm not going to be strong-armed into saying what not to talk about because somebody's complaining. This is why I don't have moderators on my channel for, you know, I don't have bots or moderators. Say whatever you want. I tell people, if you don't like what somebody says, fucking ignore them. I even show you how to ignore people. You can ignore me if I type something in the frickin' chat. I don't give a fuck. You don't need a babysitter to tell you what to listen to. You have control over your own chat. And I have literally had people, like, I understand why people use them. I'm not sure yet. I'm probably going to stream some, probably Diablo 3, because I have a build that I made. I created this build that nobody else uses, so I'll be pretty much using that on hardcore. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing yet. But the like I said, the issue here is that when you're dealing with, you know, when you're dealing with people that are just, I don't know, when you're dealing with these types of people, it's like until enforcement is put into place, this is the shit you got to deal with. But what gets me is people complain about the way things operate, and then when you tell them what needs to be done, everyone's like, oh, that's a joke, it doesn't do anything and everything. No, this is like game developers not banning people for using cheats online. Think about this, all right? It's like, okay, this doesn't, everything I'm talking about doesn't just apply to online. It applies to life in general. So, for example, it's about sending a message out. So think about this. The way things are operating now, people who use cheats in game, people get annoyed with it and say, you know, we're going to report you. And what does somebody say? Go ahead, report me. So even if you do, they get banned, they get suspended, and then they're right back in the game. So what did you do? That does nothing. There's no enforcement. There's no message sent out that if you freaking do something, you're going to have consequences applied to you. Now, compare the situation currently to this one. If terms of service were enforced as they should have been being all along since games started, and since games came into the internet, if they were being enforced, the conversation wouldn't be, go ahead, report me for cheating, I won't care. The conversation would go, you're cheating, you're going to get, it would have sent the message that if you cheat, you're going to have action taken against you. Not, well, if we report you and then the company decides, you know what I mean? No. So, if you are cheating in a game, you need to be completely, all right, let me rephrase that. If you are if you were to be proven, I can't even freaking speak. If you are proven to be cheating in a game, that's what I meant to say. If you're proven to be cheating in a game, you need to be instantly, permanently gone. The only way to play that game again is to buy it again. That's it. So think about this. If people were forced to have to buy the game again over and over and over again, it wouldn't stop the cheating, but how much cheating do you really think would be going on? And this doesn't just apply here. There are just stupidity levels in the human race that need to freaking end. So, for example, I don't give a shit who anybody is. There is no person on the face of this fucking planet that's going to tell me if the speed limit in the United States is 75 or 80, why a car needs to come off of the lot with a speedometer showing 140, 150, even if it can't go that fast. That's not the point. The point here is that why is there a speedometer that high if the speed limit in this country is only 75, 80? There's no logic behind that, and there's nothing anybody's going to be able to say to me that I'll ever agree with on that. You cannot justify that in any way, shape, or form. So, if they did that, what would happen is you'd get a bunch of law enforcement not issuing speeding tickets because nobody would be able to speed. Is that the reason? I mean, you know what I mean? There's no logic behind that. Everyone's like, well, we need to do this and we need to do that. This country is so fucked up, it's not even funny. I can't stand the way this country's run. I've always been open about that. So, I'm actually in the process of going to one of these state, federal Senate meetings or one of these state Senate meetings where any information I talk about could be covered, but it gets into the right hands of people. Obviously, you don't go in and barge into a fucking Senate meeting like that, but you just go to the public ones, and I do want to voice my opinion on a bunch of things because there's so much bullshit going on in this country that fucking needs to end, and it's so unnecessary that people need to stop fucking with people and pussyfooting around and walking on eggshells around people and just point blank tell people how it is. So, for example, and it's like you need to tell people this rudely because enough is enough. They need to be told this, and this is how it needs to be said, and they need to freaking listen to it. Anybody that has an issue with it, fucking leave the meeting. I'm not going to sit there and have you tell me how I have to talk to you because it needs to be said like this because this country, that's part of the point here. So, like, for example, I am adamantly against any transgender person using the bathroom when I'm in there. Now, that turns into, I said, no, you can't use the bathroom. It's not what I fucking said at all. So that's the shit that I'm talking about. People will twist around what you say and say shit into you that you never said. I never said you couldn't use the bathroom, so don't, that's what I'm saying. These fucking people need to be punched in the fucking head for even doing that. So, if you want to chop your balls off, sew a cock to your vagina, do whatever the fuck you want, that's fine. Do whatever you want. That has nothing to do with the fact that I'm not going to let you into the bathroom while I am there. I will literally block you from going to the bathroom. And if you want to start a fight about that, I'll start carrying pepper spray. Because I'm not going to be strong-armed into having forced acceptance on me, and then you have a problem with me having a problem with it. Fuck off. So, this is why one of the valid points here, and people are like, that's not valid. Yeah, actually, what I'm about to say is 100% valid. There are 5 subjects in school: math, history, science, reading, and social studies. Nowhere in that does transgender fit in. It may be in history, but guess what? None of that shit fucking matters. It has nothing to do with you getting a percent to graduate. It needs to be kept the fuck out of schools. No, people shouldn't be sensitive of that. If you are dressed like a fucking idiot, you're going to get pointed and poked fun at, period. Oh, that's intolerable. Then don't fucking dress like that. You're being a fucking tool. It's like you're purposely going out of your way to dress like an asshole just to bitch if somebody makes fun of you. Now, I'm not saying don't be transgender, because here's the fine line between shit. I've probably been in the bathroom with transgender people, and the reason I bring that up is because those people, you don't know if they're transgender. It's these fuckwads that are causing an issue about it. Oh, look at me, I'm going... Do I announce that I'm jerking off? No, you don't give a fuck. Why would you care? I don't give a fuck if you play with yourself. I don't. But that's my point. You're taking something that nobody is going to give a flying fuck about what you do. I don't give a shit if you go home and eat meatballs. It's like saying what you eat. Nobody gives a fuck. If you want to dress like that, why? Why is it a big deal that you have to make it a point to let somebody know that you are trying to change your sex? That's the equivalency of going out of your way to say, oh, I ate this. Really? Well, that's the thing, because everyone's walking on eggshells. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as gender disidentity or whatever the fuck it is. You're either male or female. There is no in between. I don't give a shit how many hormone pills you take, and I don't give a shit how much plastic surgery you had. I don't give a fuck how many operations or surgeries or whatever. Your chromosomes make you what you are. You're born a male. I don't give a fuck if you get a sex change to become a female. You're still a male, and I will never, ever, ever address a male as a female or a female as a male. I don't give a fuck, and I'm not going to have that enforced onto me. Period. That's the end of it. Now, I want to bring up the fact that gay marriage is not legal. It's not a legal law. The government strong-armed people into enforcing to think it is, but it's not. And here's the reason behind that. Because I don't give a shit what the government says. The government is held in check by the Constitution. The Constitution states the government is not allowed to fucking make laws up however that they want and enforce them as laws, because the Constitution ignores that. They said if laws have to be made within this confine. If any laws are made outside the confines of this structure, they're invalid. They're not laws, because they don't acknowledge how laws are made. Now, case in point, gay marriage. That was never put on a voting ballot. Now, I don't vote in this country, so people will say, well, you don't have a right to bitch about anything. I can fucking bitch about whatever the fuck it is that I want, because whether or not I vote has nothing to do with the fact that I know what's on the ballot or what isn't or isn't on the ballot. So I had a friend of mine try to say, well, you don't vote. I said, what the fuck does that have to do with the fact that I do understand what's on these ballots just because I don't vote? Now, do I give a shit who's in the presidency? No, because it doesn't fucking matter who the people are using. It doesn't fucking matter, because my friend and I got into this debate about how the fucking voting system works, and he's saying about the Electoral College, and I kept telling him, I says, listen, you're using knowledge of where the votes are coming from rather than blind voting, because voting needs to be done in a majority rules. So he goes, well, California is bigger than Texas. I said, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? So more votes can come out of that. I said, how the fuck do you know? If all voting needs to be done is X amount of votes come in, does this person win or not? It doesn't, the votes, where the votes come from are not valid. It's not, so what happens here is the Electoral College allows people to know where the votes are being derived from, so they can then use that as an argument to dictate, well, see, this state has more people in it. If votes were done the way voting should be, the Electoral College system would not be able to fucking utilize that position to manipulate how voting works. So basically what it is it doesn't matter how many fucking people are in California. It doesn't. California's population has no relevance to how many people are actually voting for this person. The only way you can make a comparison is to know exactly how many votes came out of California and who those votes went to. Without that information, it doesn't matter where the fucking votes came from. Because you can't you can't say, well, they won because California had more people, because you would have no comprehension to where those votes came from. The Electoral College system allows you to know where the votes are coming from, which is the whole fucking problem. The Electoral College system needs to be removed from this. It either needs to be removed. It needs to be removed from the equation, because they combine votes into, like, multiple votes into one vote, which nullifies you having an individual vote. That's what it does in a nutshell. And they allow you to know where those votes came from. So voting works on a majority rules. If whoever wins the popular vote gets it. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's how voting works. And all of a sudden, political people decided to enforce that and change that. So this rates back to the transgender issue. Now, I've always said I don't acknowledge gay marriage as a law, because it's not. I don't give a fuck what the federal government does, and you can fucking sit and try to tell me I have to obey that. I won't. I won't. I won't. I just won't. And so I don't acknowledge it. I don't care. And I will tell a judge I don't acknowledge that. That's not a law because of how it was made. So don't dictate to me what I have to do that with laws that you're just making up. And so when you're dealing with the transgender issue, they did the transgender issue different. That's on the voting ballot. Now, whether or not I vote for that doesn't matter. The fact is that they put it on the ballot. They put it on the ballot for people to have a say in it. So now you're giving the American public the say. Now, if it passes like that, I won't like it, but I will have to acknowledge it as a law because it was done on how laws are supposed to be made. That's just the way this works. The gay marriage one, that was never done like that. It was just all of a sudden, nope, gay marriage is legal, you're dealing, no, fuck off, I'm not going to. So, that's the difference here. And so, people like, the American public has been strong-armed into thinking that treason, if you don't use this, you're going anti-government. No, we're just not going to fucking tell. I just don't give a flying fuck. So, for example, one of the things I have a serious problem with is the abuse of law enforcement and how far over the edge that they will go to find somebody that killed a law enforcement official, and nobody looks at what caused the law enforcement official to die, to get killed. Now, I'm not saying kill law enforcement. I'm not saying law enforcement's bad. I'm saying when situations arise like this is a fucking problem. So, for example, I've been open about this, and if I was ever arrested and, whatever, and I got tased at a friggin' arrest, and I did something to get tased, that's my fault. I have nobody to blame but myself. But if I get tased for no fucking reason, fuck that. I may I've said this, and I'll say this multiple times, and I will say it over and over again, because I don't tolerate this bullshit. If a cop tases somebody for no reason at all, that person, when they get out of jail, needs to fucking go buy a taser, find out where that fucking cop lives, hide in his bushes, wait till he comes out and fucking tase him back to see how he likes it. What would happen is, again, I'm not saying go out and do it for no reason. See, there's a difference between having a reasoning for doing this and just being stupid. People who have gotten tased for no reason at all have every right under the Constitution to go tase the cops back. Nobody does it because you've been strong-armed and threatened. That's assault on a law enforcement officer. This is what I say to that. A law enforcement officer isn't made by his badge, his uniform, the color of his skin, where he's from, or anything. What makes a law enforcement officer is the oath that they take. Period. A badge is a piece of metal and everything else. What enforces the officer as a law enforcement officer, whether they're cops, FBI, or anything else, is the oath that they take. The oath is what makes you law enforcement. As soon as a law enforcement official violates their oath, they are no longer law enforcement. The Constitution clearly states that is abuse of authority and they're not supposed to be doing it. Now, a cop that does something like that is now a felon, because once you're no longer a law enforcement official, anything that becomes illegal for a civilian to have or non-law enforcement official to have is now in the hands of a felon, which makes them an armed convict, or an armed felon, not convict, excuse me, an armed felon. They are an armed assailant, because now they are an assailant with weapons. That's the way I look at this, and that's the way I deal with this. If you break the law as a law enforcement officer, you violate your oath. I'm not talking about breaking law. Yeah, breaking a law, everybody breaks them. But if you violate the oath to such an extent where it nullifies it, or I'm sorry, if you violate an oath to an extent of where it actually, I mean, you got to use some reasoning, but if it violates the oath to the point where it's a violation, they're no longer a law enforcement official. They've just immediately ceased. It's like breach of contract. The contract becomes automatically null and void. So, it's like one of the things I want to go to one of these Senate meetings, and I will say this in the Senate meeting. Again, obviously, I got to figure, I'm in the process of figuring out where they are, and then which ones are public, and then you have to write a letter to, whoever is the head of it. They have to, you have to do a process here. That's not an issue. I have no problems doing the process. You can't just go in there being an asshole either, But you do have to get your points across in a manner that makes it, makes it meaningful. So what happens here is, and this is what I'll say, the law enforcement in this country has gotten too abusive. I don't give a, now I'm not saying all law enforcement is bad. By all means, do your job. But when it comes to the point where there are so many videos surfacing about abusive law enforcement officials, and even on the news, I will literally tell every single person in that building, if you see a cop pummeling somebody like that, grab up a couple civilians and knock the fuck out of the cop. You're not going to sit there and have a cop be abusive, then have other people stand around and not remove the cop from the person, period, because there's too many fucking problems. You're not knocking the cop off to do retardedness. You're knocking the cop off because they're not supposed to be doing that under their own authority. Some force is necessary depending on what's going on, but you don't need 5 cops on one person, because cops need to fucking learn that you are under no obligation. I don't give a fuck if you yell at me. You're not going to fucking order me to be an asshole. I'm not going to be an asshole. Period. That's the bottom fucking line. So what's going on here is too often cops are pulling guns on people. It's almost like you need civilians with guns to keep the cops in check. And on top of that, any cop that shoots somebody, warranted or not, should automatically be terminated from the police force. They should not be a cop anymore. Because if you are that, because there's too much of this, I was in fear for my life statement bullshit. You cannot tell me a cop that pulls a weapon on somebody that is unarmed is in fear for their life when all right, case in point, let me give you an example. This is the shit I'm talking about. A cop gets caught. This is an actual video. I forget where the video. This is an actual on-camera video. Like this is literally from the cop's cam or something. I forget what it was, but basically what happened was this cop got called to this cop got called because somebody was being weirded out or something. Somebody was weirded out or whatever, or the guy was somebody was causing problems. The point is that when the cop showed up, the person has been already walking away. They are leaving the scene. Now, this is literally what happened. The cop said to the guy, stop. No, first of all, nowhere does a cop have the authority to tell you to fucking stop. People are like, yeah, they do. No, they fucking don't. I don't acknowledge somebody who's going to tell me to stop and then threaten me to do something when I don't listen to them. You are under no obligation. You can tell the cop to fuck off and just stop following you. And if they want to continue, they are causing a confrontation. There's too much of this, well, you're causing a confrontation. I'm over here. No, you came over and approached me. You're being a douchebag to me, so you're causing a conversation. No, they don't. They do, but they don't. But let me go on here. So basically, this person, I'm not condoning what the frickin' person did to have the cops called. By no means am I condoning that. But when you have somebody that is leaving a scene, this cop followed this guy for almost 3 blocks, and at one point literally had to run up to the guy to catch up to him. The guy's like, "Leave me the fuck alone." He's walking away. If the guy got that far away from the scene or whatever it was, the cop should have stopped following. No, the cop decided to continue following him up the fucking block, which is antagonizing the person. The person's like, "Get the fuck away from me, get the fuck away from me, get the fuck away from me." So the person then was getting into their car. The cop then pulled out his taser. Now you have a weapon being pulled on an unarmed civilian because he didn't listen? Fuck off. That does not give you the right to tase the fucking person because they're not stopping because you wanted them after you chased them up the fucking block when the scene of the incident was back 3 fucking blocks. So the cop was looking for a problem. You can't justify this. I don't give a shit what the police department says. You're not going to justify following somebody up the fucking block for that long, chasing after them, literally running to catch up to them, and then when they get into their truck, you pull out a taser because they decided not to stop? Bullshit. So what wound up happening is the guy literally... No, they don't. I mean, well, they do, but they don't. But anyway, the point is that the cop said, don't leave, don't get in your truck. Why? The fucking guy didn't, the cop has no authorization to tell somebody not to get in their vehicle, and if they do, they fucking get tasered. Fuck off. I don't give a shit what is going on. There is no fucking reason for the cop to be at that point up there with a fucking taser pulled, because now you have a weapon. You have pulled a weapon on an unarmed civilian. What happened was the cop tasered the guy in the truck. You know what happened to the guy? All it did was it pissed the guy off. The guy got out of his fucking truck with a crowbar and started wailing the fuck out of the cop. I'm sorry, the cop got exactly what he fucking deserved. So the cop can pull a weapon on an unarmed civilian for not stopping. And then your buddy comes in and actually shoots the guy because he was getting wailed on? Fuck that. So what you have here is what needs to friggin' happen is this. The person who called the cop that chased the guy up the street, and the cop that shot him all need to be tried for manslaughter. The girl that caused the guy to get shot because she's the one that fucking called the cop for chasing the guy up the fucking street, pulling a weapon on the unarmed civilian, so all it did was piss the civilian off to defend himself, which you have a constitutional right to do, against an armed assailant, and then you have the fucking cop that shot the guy. All 3 of them need to be tried for fucking manslaughter, period. Because that's what it was. They set up a situation and then used their authority to do that. And so, that's like, that's bullshit. You cannot even justify that. No. Here's the thing. I want to be clear about this. What I just described was on camera from start to finish. There's no investigation needed for that. That's clear as day what happened. There is no, we need to investigate. No, you fucking don't. The cop got called to the scene. The guy left. You chased up the street. You fucking pulled a weapon on him. You fucking pissed him off. He attacked you with a weapon because he's defending himself against you, which you had no business pulling out. And then your buddy comes over and shoots him. No, you are fucking guilty as fuck. So therefore, that's when you have something clear cut and dry like that, that's done. I don't want to hear about, oh, there needs to be an investigation. No, fuck off. You saw what happened. It's done. Now, when you have something where something's off camera or there's questioning, that warrants an investigation. You shouldn't, because if you were on the receiving end of that, I'm not condoning anything. I'm playing devil's advocate here, because it's like if cops are on your property and you tell them to get off, they need to stop standing around and fucking leave. Because if you went into the police station and stood around, or went on their property and stood around, you'd get arrested. So this is when shit needs to stop. So basically, if you have a gun in your home, you tell the cops, you get off my fucking property right now, you have the count of 10, or I'm going to start shooting you. Bottom fucking line. And what they will do is the cops will stand there and antagonize you rather than leave. But the fact of the matter is, as soon as you have told them to leave, if they don't have a warrant, they are now trespassing. That is a felony. Or it's a misdemeanor, sorry. And so what happens is, once they are trespassing, they are no longer an officer of the law because they violated their oath. Because you're not allowed to commit a crime like that, period. And everybody's getting breaks for this. And so, on the flip side of that, what winds up happening is, here's something else that see, I look at things on both ends. And I apply situations across the board evenly. I don't give a fuck who you are, if you have a badge or not. Do your fucking job and stop being stupid, and stop making comparisons to other people that you don't want to apply to yourself. So case in point. All right, I'll get to my point in a minute, but let me ask you a question here. And this shows, there's two things here. This will show you the ridiculousness of how people in the United States think. All right, this when I put this out there, this will give you two prime examples on what is going on here in this, how ridiculous this country is. So I'm going to deal with the law enforcement first, because I harped on that subject enough. Now, I do want to be clear. I love when cops do their job. I have no problems with that. Like, I was coming home one day from work, and a cop pulled up to me, and he says, "Hey, listen, I know you're probably just walking home. I got a call. I had to come out here. Did you see anybody? I know it's probably not you." I says, he goes, I'm just going home. He goes, "I know. I just had to come out here." I don't have an issue with that. But if you decided to come up, "Wait, what are you doing?" I'm going to tell you to fuck off. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't have an issue with, doing a job or whatever it is. But there's another freaking thing that gets me. And so when there's a known gang affiliation, I'm not saying gang, good, bad, whatever. I'm just saying a known gang affiliation, like the Bloods, the Crips, whatever. What happens is, when one Blood or Crip or whoever it is in a gang gets nailed for doing some crime, the entire gang gets blamed because they're all one organization. It's a base fact. The cop's like, "Well, you're with that gang. You must be guilty." And the guy's like, "Dude, I was over here. The camera eyes on you. Oh, you're guilty just because you're associated with them." The reason I bring that up is because when you have these incidences where cops that actually do their job wind up getting shot because of the assholes that don't do their job, sorry, same fucking same concept. You're part of the same affiliation, therefore you are guilty, you're all guilty. You're good, you're all good. You are blaming cops blame one gang member that wasn't even involved just for being affiliated with the gang, then cops can get blamed for what one cop does, even though if they're not involved, because they're all affiliated. It's the same concept. And that's the shit that pisses people off when I talk about it. It says you cannot cherry pick where that applies. The same fucking concept goes. So I'm not saying go out and do anything. I'm just making a comparison here. So let me get off the law enforcement issue and let me ask you a question. Now, this is just a question because this is a question I ask people all the time to get them to understand the stupidity level of the way people are in this country and how much bullshit really goes on by taking apart very basic situations and then asking them simple questions where they didn't actually think about this. All right, so if you have a mother, grandmother, anybody that has children, and the reason I use children is people like to talk about children a lot. If you have somebody that has children, and they decide just because they chose, this is again a choice issue, they chose to stop their car on a 4-lane highway, get out of the vehicle, just because they chose to, bring their kids and walk across the highway during the day. What do you think should happen to the fucking people, the adults in the car that stopped the car on purpose just because they chose to and took their kids and decided to stroll across the highway? What do you think should happen to the adults? Well, I should say, what do you think should happen to the adults, and what is your reasoning for that? I know the stream's like 15 seconds behind itself, and I don't know. I'm assuming you're typing, so like I said, I'll give it a few minutes. Yeah, but right. So my point that I was getting at was to get you to understand that that's child endangerment. It's a choice of child endangerment, and there's a reason why I bring that up. So choosing to endanger a child like that because you had a choice to do so. All right? Okay, attempted murder. Right, that's exactly my point. That's what I was getting at. Now, let me ask you a question. How is stopping a car choosing? This is something that may fuck with you because what I'm about to bring up and what I'm about to say will get you to understand because these are the comparisons I make. Now, usually when you I ask that question first, and then I ask, well, then explain to me what is the difference between that and what I'm about to say. All right, so if you think that if an adult chooses, let's say your parents of a guardians, whatever. Let's say the adult, since they chose to stop a car on a 4-lane highway and purposely walk across the highway with the kids, that's endangerment, manslaughter. People get pissed off at that. Okay, so how is that any different than choosing to move your children to an area that you know floods, has tornadoes, or fires? Explain that one to me. If people are going to play child endangerment with a highway that might get hit, everybody knows if you cross the highway, you have the possibility of getting hit. Purposely choosing to move to an area where tornadoes frequent, where they destroy the towns, or they do, other, flooding, or any place else that you choose to move. How is that any different? I think my friggin' video went out for a bit. I don't know if I get kicked out of the stream or what, but that, to the viewers that are left, that's just my point. People will apply certain situations where they want, but they don't realize that what I just explained is a contextual issue that is the same exact thing as walking across the highway. People are like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. Child endangerment doesn't fall under a specific category. It doesn't only apply to a highway. You are basically moving. Yeah, but here's the thing. Choosing to move to a tornado-prone area is putting your children's lives in danger because the tornadoes are destructive. You know the damage that they do because it's all over the fucking news. People get killed in them. You are choosing... Right, but what I'm saying here is that the issue here is that most people will apply the child endangerment issue. That's really that's what I was getting at. So what happens here is people look at, when I say the highway, their mind goes in one direction. But when I point out that how is crossing the highway any different than moving your children into an area where there is a disaster-prone area, knowing it's a disaster-prone area. That would be like if I decided to take my child and my wife and I decided to purposely move to, I don't know, an area where there's great whites in and we just kept having our child play in the water. We would be accused of fucking child endangerment. Our child will probably be taken from us, and we'd be fucked. But yet it's okay for us to move to a tornado-infested area. It's the same fucking thing. You're putting your child in danger because you are doing a choice, just like you chose to cross the highway. Right, but the point is that, do you know what the tornado belt is in the United States? In case you don't know, basically the tornado belt is the area in which tornadoes are frequent more than any place else in the United States. Meaning there is probably a tornado there every week. It's ridiculous. So I'm not saying you in general, but saying you can't use, well, there's disasters everywhere, to circumvent the fact that in certain areas these things happen almost on a frequent basis to the point where cars run down the highway. It's the same thing. So if you were purposely choosing to cross the highway with your kids and put them in danger that way of getting hit by a car, moving them to a tornado-prone area is the same exact thing. You were choosing to put your child in danger in a place you know this is going to happen. That doesn't matter. This isn't about what people are dying from. This is about people are choosing to move to areas without having consequences applied to them as being child endangerment. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I'm not saying you, but I'm saying that's exactly what people are doing. And this is what happens. The whole point to what I just brought up was to show this is how stupid people have gotten. They want to apply child endangerment to a highway, but they don't want to apply it to a tornado-infested area. How the fuck is that any different? Either way you look at it, you are endangering your child. There is no degree of, well, it doesn't happen here, or, yeah, I can cross the highway 19 times and I may not get hit. Just because it's flooded with it doesn't mean I'm going to get hit by a car. But at the same time, people are like, well, you're choosing to do that. How the fuck is that any different than moving to a tornado-infested area? That's the same exact thing. You are choosing to do something you are choosing to go into an area that is active with a disaster. And I don't mean disaster as a natural disaster. You're bringing your kids and children into an area that a disaster is prone to happening. Crossing the highway, you're going to get hit by a car. That's a disaster. No, so the issue here isn't, again, this was just a point that I was making. So, on the subject of places that, people live, the government needs to step, here's another issue, okay? The government needs to step in and force everybody in the United States, anybody that's on a shoreline, you cannot live near the shoreline. Bottom fucking line. No houses at all. Bottom line, you're not allowed to do it. Move everybody inland 50, 60, 100 miles. That's it. No more fucking houses on the shoreline. Once you do that, you can't stop weather from happening. So, for example, in Texas. Texas was a different story because the land that got hit was inland. That's weather. There's nothing you can do about that. I'm not talking about that. People were inland as far as the middle of Texas, and they were getting hit. That is because that is the weather. Doesn't always happen out there. That was a rare occurrence. But the fact is that those people weren't near the shoreline. They were in far enough where it shouldn't have affected them, but it just did because that shit happens. When you're dealing with the shoreline, the federal government should not be allowing anybody. Well, that's my right to live there. No, because that's like saying the police are going to allow people into an area where they know there's an active bomb. You're not going to be let anywhere near the fucking place. You're just not. And so, if they can stop that, they can fucking cordon everybody off because there's too many fucking flood problems. And it's costing Americans too much tax money. That's the issue here, is because there's too much fucking shit being spent on useless stuff that has nothing to do with anything. The tornado belt is another issue. Or the tornado alley, if you want to call it. Tornado alley has been built at least 4 times, costing billions of dollars every time it's built. Schools, everything. That shit needs to fucking stop. Build the shit underground, and then it ends it. All power lines, everything else. So it doesn't fucking matter if there's tornadoes there. And what you do is you tell people, if you want to live here, you are going to live underground. If you are refusing to live underground, you are not moving there. That's what the government needs to do. And they need to stop wasting fucking money on things by putting things into perspective and doing certain things that will solve very, very simple problems that have become a major problem. And instead of wasting money rebuilding something that it's been torn down 4 fucking times. It's not that it might be torn down. It doesn't matter whether it might or not. It's already been torn down 4 fucking times. Everyone's like, oh, I lost my house. Build the shit under fucking ground and it's done. Stop rebuilding the shit above ground where it's getting fucking destroyed. You know tornadoes are there. Build the shit underground or don't let anybody live there. That ends the fucking problem. So it's simple things like that that solve a lot of this country's problems, but nobody wants to do anything. Oh, that's this, and everybody's pussyfooting around. So somebody needs to tell everybody, shut the fuck up, sit down, this is going to happen, this is the way this is going to work. And everyone's like, but there is no buts. Flood lines, there's too many fucking houses getting destroyed by floods. Everybody knows that, and people are still choosing, no, fuck off. I don't give a shit how much money you have. Move everybody fucking inland. Tornadoes, stop building fucking trailer parks out in tornado. I know I'm not saying that to be derogatory. Build the fucking houses underground. Period. Done. Guess what? All the tornadoes are above ground. You have nothing to destroy. Guess what? Yay! It's done. So the issue here is that there's too much bullshit going on, and nobody wants to do anything about it. So that brings me back to the point on what I originally was talking about with school and the transgender issue. The school board needs to tell all these students that are getting up and walking out of class, because my feelings are hurt of racist graffiti, that if you get up and walk out of class, you are going to get suspended and you're going to fail. You're going to get a failing grade because you are choosing not to go to class. This whole bullshit about fucking all these marches, getting up, going to... No, you're there for academics. Yes, have debates, but if you are going to get up and walk out of class, then the school board needs to put their fucking foot down and say, you walk out of this class because of what's written on that wall. What's written on that wall is not stopping you from picking up a pencil and taking a test. So the school board is like, well, we need to resolve this. No, the school board needs to put their fucking foot down and say, you're here for academics. If you want to get up and leave, that means you don't want to be here. You're getting flunked. And they need to put their foot down. Because, case in point, about schools putting their foot down, there was this transgender fucking bullshit where this person, I don't even remember who the fuck it was, guy, girl, whatever, they wanted to use the opposite bathroom, and the school says, no, you are not going to use that opposite bathroom. So what happens is, what I said about forced acceptance earlier, about where I have to tolerate you fucking rolling over on me, but I can't say anything back, and if I do, all this, whatever, fuck off. So what it is people causing a problem until they get their way, and if they don't get their way, they cause a problem to try to get their way again. So case in point was the case with this bathroom shit. The school says, we don't give a fuck what you dress like. You are not a opposite sex. You are not going to use the opposite sex bathroom. That is our school policy. If you don't like it, leave. Oh, I'm going to go to the Supreme Court and everything else. Case in point, the fucking kid tried to get his way. The school said, fuck off. We have policies. We're not going to allow you to steamroll them. And then the asshole decided to try to take it to the Supreme Court. And everyone's like, oh, he's a hero. No, he's a fucktard that's causing a problem because he's in school and it's more important to get his point across than it is to get an education. So this shit needs to fucking stop with the school board. The school board needs to stop fucking around with these people and start putting their fucking foot down. They need to stop. They need to completely remove anything that's gender related to fucking schooling, because it has nothing to do with you graduating. So when you graduate from high school or you get your GED, there are 5 subjects and you need a total of 100. Now you can get 60% in one subject and then 20% in the other and still pass. But the fact of the matter is you need a total passing grade in those 5 subjects of a certain percent in those subjects that make up the total. Nowhere in any of those 5 subjects, there is not a 6 subject saying you need 6% or at least 20% in transgender. It doesn't belong in the academic. Fucking remove it. And that's what the government needs to fucking be told this, and the government needs to say to the school board, yes, this is correct. You need to fucking stop fucking with these people because they're there to get an education. Yes, you want to have some debates and stuff like that because that comes with it, because that's what school does, and that's the whole purpose of it, but that's for history class. If you get so pissed off and offended because somebody wrote some thing on the fucking wall you deem racist, then you're a fucking idiot, and don't go there. Because that would be the equivalency of, well, our school is, grab the fucker that did it and get him for vandalizing school property. What is written on the fucking wall doesn't matter. And people are like, it does. No, it fucking doesn't. If you get offended by what I'm saying, oh well, don't listen to me. Turn the fucking channel. I can say whatever it is they want, and in fact, if you get pissed off or offended, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying in general, if people get pissed off and offended, then they deserve to be pissed off and offended. Because I just went through this with somebody in Discord earlier tonight, where people like nigger, and I says, okay, if I call you a nigger, why is it automatically assumed that I'm using a racist slur? Where the fuck did that come from? So because somebody automatically decides the word I said means what they wanted to, despite not even asking me what context I'm using it in. All of a sudden, now I'm the bad guy? Oh, you're using a racist slur. How the fuck do you know? So let me break this down for you. Bringing it back to one of the first definitions of the word nigger. Nigger basically comes from over where Nigeria is. But that's not what the word is. The original definition of the word is, one of the original definitions of the word was, you are a pyramid builder in Egypt. Didn't matter what the fuck, where you came from. You built pyramid in Egypt, you're a nigger. Period. There's no racist context to that at all. So, we're going to leave that definition here. It doesn't cease to exist just because you don't know about it. It's still one of the definitions to the word nigger. Now, further on, we go up a few centuries and stuff like that. Now you actually have what is it? Ignorance. Okay? Now you have ignorance. So there's two definitions that have no racial connotation at all in any way, shape, or form. Right, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I get what you're saying, but let me finish here, because like I said, I just put out two definitions of the word. Now those definitions don't cease to exist just because they get ignored. People are just ignoring them. Now, you have the word nigger as ignorant. I just put a third definition, at least let me see. Pyramid builder in Egypt, a Nigerian. Now you have the word ignorant. Again, three definitions that have no racial context to them at all. Now I bring you up to speed with the word nigger as a racist slur. So I'm just leaving those four definitions. All four of those are definitions of the word nigger. All of them are. So if I call you a nigger, I'm automatically assumed I'm using a racist slur, and they cherry pick the one definition they want out of it instead of asking me what I'm talking about. And that is a huge problem, which brings me to the next context of ignorance. Nigger means ignorant. In this context that I'm using it in. So why is it okay to say ignorant, that person's being ignorant, but you can't say that person's being nigger, when both of them mean exactly the same thing in that context? But what my point here is that, like the issue where people are crossing a highway with their kids but don't apply that to the tornado situation that I explained, despite it's the exact same thing, because that's how people think, you have the same exact problem with the word nigger or some other word like that, because people are cherry picking only what they want something to mean and not even bothering to stop to realize that there are other contexts. Because if I just called you a nigger, you have no clue to what the fuck I'm talking about. None. You can say, well, he racial slurred me. Says who? You? You didn't ask me what context I'm using it in. It's not like I wrote out four definitions, hid them all in my hand, or put them in a cup and said pick one. It's not what I said. But the fact that I'm going to get fucked over by some asshole who decides how I'm using words without asking me, despite those other definitions there, and acting like because they ignore those other definitions, they somehow don't apply. No, all the definitions that I said still are applied to this word. People are choosing not to apply them and then deciding that the entire word itself is racist. So what you have here is, you know, one of the prime examples I use is the word cunt. C-U-N-T. People are like, oh, you know, that's degrading to women. Says who? Well, it says you're using that as a slur. Really? Says who? You don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, who are you to dictate how I'm using that word? How's this? I could turn cunt into an acronym. Cut up, not toasted. So now you're going to say that because I want my sandwich cut up, not toasted, it's a fucking degrading term? How is my sandwich being cut up and not toasted a degrading term? Explain that one. So the point here is like, then you got people who will do this. Well, you know what you were saying. No, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. You're now again trying to dictate how that is because of the tone of your voice is being condescending to me to try to change the context how you want it to instead of backing the fuck off and saying, yeah, you're right. What context are you using it? What does that even mean? Do you want me to tell you what cunt means? Cunt is a crack or crevice. It doesn't have any... People put a racial tendency or a degrading term to that, but that's not what it fucking means. It's like when you say the word tampon. Do you know what tampon means? It's a wad of cotton. So how come the only definition that gets applied to that is a female's feminine product? I understand that it is a wad of cotton, but if I fucking pick up a wad of cotton, it's a tampon. So if I said, oh, I have a tampon in my hand, the first thing that you would think of is I had a woman's hygiene product in my hand. Technically, I do if it's a ball of cotton. But the fact of the matter here is this is the stupidity level of people on the net. And when you bring this up, they're like, oh, you're stupid because you don't blah, blah, blah. It's like, really, dude? And then what you have is people who will take what you say, not only out of context, but they'll butcher what you say and then say, well, you said this. Case in point, the kid in the friggin' Discord said, I called him a pyramid builder. I says, I never said that. I says, nowhere in this conversation did I say that person's name and you are a pyramid builder. So where did you get that from? And then he reversed back to something I said earlier. He says, well, you said the definition of nigger is pyramid builder. And I said, no, that's not what I said. So what this person was doing was he was ignoring what I actually said and cherry picking out how he wanted to read it because he has piss poor grammar comprehension and doesn't get the context, and totally changed the context by only phrasing part of what I said and then trying to say that's what I said by changing around the wording and removing certain things out of the entire context of what I said. So to clarify, not that you really need to know, but what I said was nigger. One of the original definitions to nigger was a pyramid builder. Somehow that changed into I said that was the definition. No, it's not what I said. Now, this may be nitpicking at the wording, but this is what happens on the net. Is people will say that's what you said. No, that's not what I fucking said. That's what they read I said, but that's because they have piss poor grammar comprehension. And if you further go on, you will see that they don't even bother taking the remainder of the conversation that you said about the word nigger and applying it to the first part of what they said. Well, you said pyramid builder was an Egypt. I said, that's not what I said. I said, nigger, one of the definitions to nigger originally was pyramid builder in Egypt. That is not the same thing as saying, I said that is the definition. I said it's one of them. And then I proceeded to explain a few additional things. And instead of taking that entire conversation, he took out, I said this was a pyramid builder, and he says, oh, you called me a pyramid builder. No, and I said, I said, these are the definitions of it. And I says, if I call you nigger, how the fuck do you know which one I'm using? Oh, you called me a pyramid builder. He says, I just laid out 4 definitions. If you're telling me that's the definition you're picking for me, then you're a fucking idiot, because that's not even close to what I said. Because now he's taking a question I asked him. I said, what one did I use? Now he's trying to tell me what one I used in that sentence. People on the fucking net are just retarded. And what's really interesting about that Discord that I was in is that I found the link to that Discord underneath the video titled, Toxic Gamers should be removed from the game. Oh, yeah. I said that Discord itself, it's toxic, like the people in it, because that brings me back to the original point of what this video was when I originally made it. What the fuck does that even mean? I have no idea what the hell you just said. What do you think about the people wise to the JQ? I don't know what JQ is. Or I probably do, but I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to know what you're saying. What's airing? So unless that's a mispoint, unless you mistyped that. Did you mistype anything? Did you typos in that? Because if not, I have no idea what any of those words even mean. What does that even mean? Like, what do those words mean? Are those actual words, or do you do typos? Are you from the U.S.? Yeah, but are you from the U.S.? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I get you now, okay. I see, okay, you're using terminologies that aren't in the United States. That's partially because those are common terms with you. That would be like saying in the United States, oh, this is dope. Well, I was using some terminology only the United States used. And there would be some terminology you'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? I see what you're saying. That's why I asked that. You saying Aryan? Like the Aryan Brotherhood? Is that what you're saying? You're talking about the Aryan Brotherhood, aren't you? Yeah, okay, that's alright. That's alright. Because the Aryan Brotherhood is like a freaking is an issue, man. That's like the fucking Irish Republican Army. What's JQ? I'm curious to what that is. What's JQ? All right. I have a I have an issue with fucking thing. I have an issue with the statement dual citizenship. It's portion of power in media, finance, and politics. Yeah, there's a bunch of shit wrong because it's like certain places in Australia. If a judge is being corrupt behind the bench, you know what the fucking people do? They get a cop with them. They go into the fucking courtroom and they literally say you're not allowed to be behind the bench and fucking physically tell them to remove him. They remove him. If he doesn't remove himself, they physically pick him up and drag him out of the courtroom. They don't allow that shit. Some places don't allow that shit. And that's what the fucking problem is. There's too much of abuse. Even though it's directly on camera that somebody's like, how does nobody pay any attention to half of the shit that's even on camera in these courtrooms? How are these fucking people getting away with this shit is the other issue. You know, judges like, well, I can fine you for contempt of court. If a judge is being a fucking douchebag to you, and they say, you're contempt of court, no, I'm not going to be contempt of court because I'm not going to sit there and have you talk to me and talk to me a certain way and then expect respect back. And when I talk to you, you fucking fine me. No. It says, if you're not being fined, then I'm not being fined. I ain't going to pay it. That's what I would do. A fucking cat hair in my throat. So, I have a problem with dual citizenship. The term dual citizenship. It's the same reason. Now, this is a personal thing here. This isn't, anything to really write home about, which is why I don't really talk about it too much. But I have a problem with the phrase dual citizenship in the same way I have a problem with the phrase serving this country. I have a serious issue with anybody that is not inside the border of the United States, military or otherwise. If you are outside the border and confines of the U.S. soil, you are not serving this country. You're serving outside this country, but you're not serving this country. Because that would be the equivalency of saying the president serves this country while saying he's sitting behind a desk in Russia. You're not serving this country if you're not in this country. Now, this is why I have a pet peeve on this. This is basically the United States in a nutshell when it comes to problems. If you go down the street to your neighbor's house and barge onto his property and say, you're going to cook your food like this, you're going to go to bed at 8, the neighbor's going to tell you to get the fuck lost. They're not going to listen to you. Let's say you came back with 20 people to enforce that. Eventually what's going to happen is you're starting a war with the neighbor. The neighbor's going to tell you to fuck off, and if you don't fuck off because you're going on their property, trying to strong-arm your way in there, you're going to cause a problem with them because they're eventually going to retaliate. You have no business going down the street to your neighbor's house and trying to infiltrate their place and telling them how to fucking be. You just don't. Everybody will agree to that. But nobody has a problem with the U.S. going over in other countries and doing that exact same thing. If it's not in this country, stay the fuck out of it. So, case in point. Now, I'm not saying this to sound cold, but this is just the reality on it. And I say this all the time, and it pisses people off. I'm like, I'm sorry, you can get pissed off all you fucking want. That's not going to change anything. So what you have here is, what you have here is the United States going over, strong-arming other places into submission by taking the military and going over there. It's the equivalency of me taking 20 people and going up to my neighbor's house and strong-arming them that way. There is no fucking difference. Now, I can make up any excuse in the world and justify that 90 different ways. No matter what it is I say, people are going to say you're not allowed to do that. But yet, the United States does that all the time, and people will justify why the United States does it. So this is where I draw the line with this. The United States is trying to bully China into submission. I'm not saying what China's doing is good either. By no means. But guess what? That is China. That's not on U.S. soil. The United States needs to stop fucking bothering China, because the only thing that's going to happen is, I can just see this coming. When whoever it was gassed fucking one of their own people, that sucks balls. That's just, it's fucking retarded that a dictator would do that. But we have no say in that. I'm not saying that's not a tragedy, don't get me wrong, but guess what? That is not, did they bomb the United States? No. So, what did Trump do? No, we're going over there. We're going to get the fucking missiles. Trump went over there and caused a fucking problem because somebody did something that has no concern to us. And what I mean by no concern is, it did not happen in the United States soil. We have no business going over there. And again, I'm not saying that sucks ass, because it does. But the fact of the matter is, I can just see this fucking coming now. The United States is going to get attacked by fucking China or somebody that's related to them, or China's going to befriend somebody, and they're going to attack us because we went over there and bombed them for shooting missiles at people because we decided to stick our nose in it. I can fucking see it coming. And then what's going to wind up happening is the United States is going to flex its muscle. We got to do that. And this all resorts back to, we went over there because Trump said, well, we got to go over there because they shot missiles at somebody. Like it was Trump's fucking business. And again, I'm not making light of the situation, but the point here is that that would be like going over down to the street to your neighbor's house, as I said, doing something, and when they retaliate, blame the fucking neighbor. Instead of looking at the fact that I went over there with 20 people fucking him up, left and right, nobody did anything about it, and finally he retaliated, and instead, I just decided to go down there, and all of a sudden now I'm the fucking hero because they did something, and nobody looks at anything that I did. That's the same fucking thing. So that's the United States in a nutshell when it fucking causes problems. Almost every single thing that's happened in this United States and as a terrorist act in this country has been caused by the United States not minding its fucking business. I've been open about that. I say that all the freaking time. And I tell that to people, and it pisses people off. I said, that's what's fucking going on. You can sit and getting pissed at it doesn't change the fact that it happens. That's what the United States does. We decided to take it upon ourselves to decide to be fucking dictator and police of the fucking world, to flex our muscles, and it just so happened that China's not going to comply with us, and we're getting pissed off and trying to beat some China into submission, and not that I condone what he did, but if China puts their foot down, good for them, because the United States is getting away with entirely way too much. The United States need to have somebody boot it in the ass and say, listen, you need to get the fuck out of here. And not have the United States. This is like a bully starting with you, and then when you get the better of the bully gets his entire family involved. And it just never ends. You just need to fucking shoot everybody in the family to get rid of them, because that's just, they're going to keep causing fucking problems. They're trying to I'm not saying shoot anybody, don't do that. But I'm just saying that's just what, the only way to fucking eradicate the only way to cease the problem is to eradicate it completely. Which is basically the same thing with the gun laws in this country, because I am sick to death of fucking people bitching about the gun laws. Gun laws do not stop the problem that's going on. It never has and never will. Because if I have enough Bitcoin and I have enough connections, I can go onto the fucking internet and have an anti-tank missile delivered to me. Guess what? All the background checks in the world are not going to stop that. You would never know I have it. So all these fucking douchebags about, well, this country this and the gun laws that, and all anybody's doing is bitching about what is going on and doing absolutely nothing to change it. People demand change, and when somebody comes up with a way that the only possible way change will work, everybody denies it, so that won't work. Yeah, so like I said, I mean, I'm just bitching, but like I said, I mean, that's the extent of it. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that that's just the way this is, but these are the topics that I want to discuss at that meeting. Obviously, you still have to, bring them up appropriate and things like that. So I always tell people before I end this, if you want to change something, do it right. Don't go fucking causing problems like that. Yeah, it's annoying, and that's the first thing you want to do. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to. But that makes you know better than anybody else. I've touched up a lot of subjects in this, and a lot of them are going to piss people off. But that doesn't mean I'm telling you to go out and do something. I'm telling you to go out and do it the right way. Go to a Senate meeting. Write your congressman. Go to these places. I'm doing it because I want my voice heard. Now, whether or not it actually goes anywhere may or may not change anything. But at least getting this information to the right people will allow the right people to possibly bring it in. Because if you make the comparisons that I made at these meetings, I'm just ignoring all the stupid arguments and bickering that are going on. I'm getting right down to the heart of the issue. And when you do it like that, it may make people think, because when you bring up comparisons, it'll piss people off. But the people that have the common sense enough to step back and realize, oh shit, that's right, that's the same thing. But here, and so, like, when you really look at it, what are you bitching? What are people bitching about? You know what I mean? So, that's all I got to say on that. And I'll take care, guys. And I'm going to end this stream because I got to kind of get some sleep here. And that's about it. I got to actually put this link to the, I gotta put the link to this video on the fucking guy's channel. And there's like 2 hours of excess talk, and it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the fucking subject matter I put in this video. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Alright, man. Hey, take care. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I appreciate it. And this is TL Gamer signing off. Have a good day and night wherever you guys are.